Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight on the News Hour, I'm going to tell you stories of pain and anger. Stories of the poor being wrong. But as the Enforcement Directorate works in an overdrive to bring the guilty to book, politics rages on. The action was all in the national capital today. Congress's first family is facing the heat in the National Herald case. Raids conducted at Herald House and 11 other locations prompted protests on the streets of Delhi by the Congress party. That's one of the cases in the capital. ED is also looking at a sitting Delhi minister and investigating allegations of fraud against him. In Maharashtra, Sanjay Raut is on the chopping block. He is under the scanner for looting 672 families of a home, robbing them of their dreams and livelihood. And in Bengal, the anger is boiling against the now sacked minister, Partha Chatterjee. In ED custody, he vehemently denies owning the mountain of cash that was recovered, but that is cutting no ice with the Manush of Bengal. People have had enough. And the proof of that was seen today when an enraged woman flung a slipper at Partha Chatterjee. Completely unapologetic, she was proud of what she had done to the man who needs to be taught a lesson, she said. Listen.
Thank you.
On the other hand, in Maharashtra, the Shiv Sena and its allies are blaming the BJP of a witch hunt against Sanjay Raut. But let me tell them and tell you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight that this case is not just about Sanjay Raut. It's about 672 families who were to be rehabilitated in flats to be built by the Maharashtra Housing Development Authority at the Patra Chaul location. 14 years later, yes, not 1 or 2 years, not 3 or 4 years. 14 years later, all they are left with is broken dreams, debts and destitution. Listen to them and their pain.
ये सब 2008 में एक ट्राईपार्टी एग्रीमेंट हुआ है और ये पहला एग्रीमेंट हुआ है और वो अभी तक वो पूरा नहीं हुआ है. पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है लेकिन उसको कुछ सक्सेस हुआ नहीं और लोग 5 साल से हमें भाड़ा नहीं मिल रहा है. 5 साल से काम बंद था और आज हम लोग भाड़ा नहीं मिल रहा है. वो हम सबसे बड़ा परेशानी वही है हमारी. आज
हमारा बोलते आज मिलेगा, वो सरकार बोलते आज मिलेगा. कभी मिलेगा? मिलने के बाद कितना लोग मरा रूम करके, फिर रूम तो नहीं मिला. अभी भी बोलते हैं रूम देंगे, भाड़ा देंगे. कभी देंगे? हम लोग मरने के बाद देंगे.
But the scam that is bigger than these two and involves a party that has governed India for decades together. The heat is on the Gandhis in the National Herald case. A week after Sonia Gandhi was questioned for a third time today, the Enforcement Directorate carried out searches at Herald House and 11 other locations across the country in the alleged money laundering case. Now, the intensified crackdown comes just a day after Rahul Gandhi took to the autocrat jibe at the central government over ED's action against Shiv Sena MP Sanjay Raut. But for the Congress and its workers, today's raids are nothing more than just vendetta. Massive protests took place at the Herald House with Congress workers hitting the streets. Even as ED officials were conducting the raid inside, Congress workers were protesting outside the office against the ED's action. 3 states, 3 cases, but one legitimate question that I want to ask on the News Hour tonight. Is politics greater than probity for the opposition? That's the question, and that's the debate. ED corruption crackdown, that's the hashtag, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Shehzad Poonawala, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Vijay Krishna, supporter of the Shiv Sena, Ashutosh, political analyst and senior journalist. And my first question that I want to ask Saugata Roy, Member of Parliament and spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. But before I ask you that question, Dada, I want to bring in some breaking news that just coming in. The latest that we are getting to know from our sources in Bengal is that 6 more flats are now on the radar of the Enforcement Directorate. These flats belong to companies in the name of Arpita Mukherjee, and these have been tracked down by the ED based on the documents that have been seized from Arpita Mukherjee as well as Partha Chatterjee, the alleged aide of Partha Chatterjee and Partha Chatterjee himself. All of these flats are now occupied by tenants. They earn rent for Arpita, but were these flats bought with the proceeds of crime? That's what the ED is currently investigating. So if 50 crores was not enough in cash and gold and foreign exchange and 12 flats that have earlier been found, there are 6 more flats that the Enforcement Directorate has found documents on and are investigating on where the money to buy these flats came in from, whether they were proceeds of crime. Saugata, on the one hand, this is the mountain of cash and assets that are coming out, and on the other side is that hapless woman. While I do not condone anything, like throwing of slippers, I want to bring to your attention the frustration of the common man. And she says it in the words that she speaks to the camera later. She said, "Taka niye chakri deche." That means jobs for cash is what is being done, and that is enraging because there are people who are dying for jobs and the deserving candidates are not getting jobs, and people paying money to this minister allegedly are getting jobs. That's the pain in her voice. I want to ask you, Saugata, that's the cry of a hapless poor woman. Is that more important, or is the political fight over the Enforcement Directorate on which you are charging the BJP, is that more important?
No, Navika, in my political life I have learned that many of the cries of hapless people are often stage managed. I do not know about the identity of this woman, whether she has been put there by some opposition party, opposition to TMC in Bengal. But I'll again repeat that I am not here to defend the indefensible. What Partha Chatterjee has been accused of and his paramour or girlfriend has been accused of are indefensible. And I'm shocked at the amount of corruption. Have faith that since I do not own any flat anywhere in the country, I do not know how they acquired that. So if the woman was genuine in her protest, I would say that all right, let it pass, though I do not condone any sort of act of violence. So we should not read too much into one chappal throwing. What Partha has done, if proved, and what his girlfriend has done are unpardonable sins. If they have really taken money from the job aspirants, is the worst crime that can take place, and I condemn with all the sincerity at my command. But having said that, let me tell you what, Navika, that The ED is one of the third class organization. They are acting at the behest of the masters in Delhi. It is headed by some middle rank police officer, and you may know that their conviction rate is 0.5%. They do not convict anybody. They have this power to raid and to attach properties. But they do it without any preparation, as a result of which no convictions taken place. And ED raids have multiplied many times ever since Modi came into operation. It was Chidambaram's mistake to have brought such a PMLA law, but the government has tightened the law further. Supreme Court has given sanction, and ED is a elephant bull in a China shop. They're trying to break everything.
Bull in a China shop,
Sanjay Raut has been arrested,
by
raided.
A middle rank police officer, and it is acting at the behest of Modi. May I just correct you on what I know, because I've been following central government and bureaucracy and agencies for nearly 25 years of my 30-year career. May I just inform you that the man heading the enforcement directorate is not a police officer.
Admire you.
He's an IRS officer.
He's an IRS, Indian Revenue Service officer. He's not a police officer, number one.
He's been given an extension. He has been given two extensions.
I'm only correcting you on the police officer point that you made.
No, why has he been given?
That's a separate argument, and we can argue and debate that as well. I'm just correcting you on the factual point that he is not a police officer.
Isn't his name Sanjay Mishra?
No.
Is that a favorite boy of the Modi.
It may be, but he is a revenue service officer and he's not a police officer. If that is a part of your charge against the ED, then he's a revenue service officer. That is my limited point. And to make another
that's
point.
As bad.
To make another point, may I tell you that between 2018 and 2020, several states have stopped CBI's entry into their states, and these states include states like Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Kerala, Jharkhand, Punjab, and 173 cases or applications have been made by the CBI in the last 3 years, and they haven't got a single permission from the Bengal government to investigate these cases, and 132 such permissions are pending with Maharashtra. So Shehzad Poonawala, CBI can apply, yet nobody will give them permission to investigate the corruption, and ED is being questioned because it's asking questions and discovering money.
So if the protester who threw a slipper today is stage managed and the ED is a third-class organization run by, may I now have the courtesy, sir? I didn't interrupt you. Thank you, sir. If the protester is stage managed and the ED is a third-class organization, then I wonder why Mr. Partha has been sacked. उसको तो फिर बैठा के रखते मंत्री के बदले उसको और भी बड़ा ऊंचा पोस्ट दे देते. They would have given him a promotion for what he has done. But the real problem is that they will even call the Navika, there has to be some standard in this debate. I'm debating with a panel. No, but that doesn't mean he has a right to interrupt.
Yes, Saugata, I'll come back
Please
to you.
Please teach him how a debate works.
If you want to rebut, I will give you adequate time to rebut Shehzad Poonawala after he's made.
And Navika, statures and honorable prefixes are no problem. It's on talent that everybody gets equal time on this panel. This is new India. This is not some old India or some legacy of colonialism. That because he's some member of some body, we should give him more time and allow him a right to interrupt. We are all equal on this panel.
Our culture still remains to respect.
My culture is also not to interrupt.
Okay,
my culture is also not to interrupt.
I'm lowering all other
my culture, Navika,
make your point.
Navika, my culture is also that a person whom we have not called as girlfriend, we don't call as girlfriend, and we do not use national television to degrade even a woman that we have a problem with ideologically. We don't. This is our culture. This is the BJP. Now let me come to my point, ma'am. First of all, if the entire matter was stage managed and if the ED is a third-class body, then why was Mr. Partha removed? Secondly, this is about Calcutta High Court also, which ordered the CBI probe. In fact, 8 CBI probes were ordered. And in fact, the Calcutta High Court also said that Mr. Adhikari's daughter's appointment is illegal, return the 41-month salary. Now, you might have some honorable members saying that even the Calcutta High Court is a third-class organization with middle-aged people in it, you know, middle-rung officers in it. They can say this, and their leaders have said this. They have questioned the judiciary also. I've made you hear that statement. But you know what is the real problem? The real problem is that we talk about 4 pillars of democracy. Today, we are seeing the 4 pillars of corruption. And those 4 pillars of corruption are I need corruption, INC, TMC, too much corruption, Aap Ka Paap, and Uddhav Ki Chor Sena. This Uddhav Ki Chor Sena has taken the money of Marathi Manus, the flats of Marathi Manus, the houses of Marathi Manus. This TMC, too much corruption, has taken the youth job opportunities of teachers. The INC has looted the property of those who are the freedom fighters, and then the Aap has done corruption of Hawala Bazi. And despite court orders on all of them, they refuse to take action. We want Har Ghar Tiranga, they want Har Ghar Parth. ये हर पार्टी में पार्थ चाहते हैं, ये हर घर से पार्थ निकलेगा, ये चाहते हैं.
Let me ask Tehseen Poonawala, and Tehseen Poonawala, to the point that Saugata raised, and he tried to call ED group of police officers headed by a police officer. May I tell you the judgment that came just last week, a judgment that came on your party man Karti Chidambaram's case, 242 such petitions challenging the PMLA case and the ED's powers. It went on to say, you know, the fact that the purposes and objects of the 2002 Act for which it has been enacted is not limited to punishment for offense of money laundering, but also to provide measures for prevention of money laundering. It is also to provide for attachment of proceeds of crime which are likely to be concealed, transferred or dealt with in any manner which may result in frustrating any proceeding relating to confiscation of such proceeds under the 2002 Act. This act is also to compel the banking companies, financial institutions and intermediaries to maintain records of transactions, to furnish information of such transactions within the prescribed time in terms of Chapter 4 of the 2002 Act, considering the above. It is unfathomable as to how the authorities referred to in Section 48 can be described as police officers. So they are not police officers. White-collared crime is what they look at. Why question the ED?
Question the ED because गुस्ताखी बीजेपी की एक ही सजा, ED से हल्ला, ED से हल्ला. ED is now no longer an investigating agency. It is BJP के लिए recruiting agency, and it does not go after money laundering. It does the work of laundry services for the BJP. So people who BJP accuses of corruption, for example, Hemanta Biswa Sharma, it does the work of laundry business, dry cleans them, and gets them recruitment into the Bharatiya Janata Party. Therefore, the nara of BJP and ED combined nara is BJP के विपक्षों को, ED से मारो विरोधियों को. Now, to your very specific question, all these amendments will now go before a constitutional bench because they were passed as a finance bill in the parliament and then go to Rajya Sabha, such as Mr. Modi's sphere of the Rajya Sabha, where it would have been debated because he has the tyranny of the numbers in the Lok Sabha and he has an overwhelming majority. But the most important and pertinent question that why is the ED director, the IRS officer's tenure increased under Rajya Sabha after suspending 12 members of the Rajya Sabha when the Supreme Court in a written judgment said his tenure cannot be increased. Now the Supreme Court today has put a notice on the ED director for illegal increase of tenure. So why have you done it? You found no other IRS officer, IPS officer, IS officer in the country, and you found one officer to increase his tenure. That is what we are getting at.
My only question to that is, when the matter is sub judice, how is it illegal? How is it being pronounced illegal by you?
Because
number one. And number two, so much of research on the appointment process and the cases against the ED director's appointment. Why can't you share some details of the National Herald case with as much alacrity as you do about the details of...
I'm ready to, if you give me 30 seconds.
5-second counter from Shehzad before I get in Anand Ranganathan.
5-second counter. Tehseen was elaborate on what the ED is. Actually, ED for them is entitlement for dacoity, because here is the Congress and hypocrisy ki koi had nahi. When the action is taken on Satyendra Jain, Congress party welcomes it and says, very good, Satyendra Jain resigned. Ab bataiye, the ED action on Satyendra Jain is also wrong. The Congress party stand is, no, it's not. It's right. मतलब दूसरों पर हो तो चमत्कार और मुझ पर हो तो गुनहगार. भ्रष्टाचार। आपका नारा ये है भ्रष्टाचार इज माय अधिकार, भ्रष्टाचार इज माय शिष्टाचार, और भ्रष्टाचार पर कार्रवाई हो तो मैं करूं अत्याचार अत्याचार।
Well,
ये इनकी हिपोक्रेसी का अपरंपार।
Then Anand Ranganathan, they also say that why should anybody go to the ED? Why can't the ED come to their homes to ask questions? So, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, different laws for different people.
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. I've been listening very patiently to what the debate is on about, and please give me a couple of minutes. It's important. Navika, the fact is, what is happening all around the country, it seems increasingly likely that it is not India against corruption, but India for corruption. I don't know what's going on. But if you look at the Maharashtra scam and the Bengal scam, the proof is in front of you. 672 chawl owners who had poor people who had their homes have been denied their home. There's an obvious scam there. In Bengal, the SSC, you see those mounds of illegal money. So there's a scam there. What I want to concentrate tonight is the National Herald scam, because the nuance is not very well known to the public. So if you permit me a couple of minutes, I want to tell you that National Herald case, just like the Maharashtra case and the Bengal scam, is an open and shut as it can get. It is the Kohinoor in the Congress crown of scams. So the question is not that the Congress is corrupt or indulging in scam. Of course they are. I mean, the scam glut is such that even the Congress leaders get confused which Congress leader perpetrated which scam. Was Raja in National Herald? Was Rahul in Colgate? Was Chidambaram in 2G? The cup runneth over, Navika. No. The question is, when will the guilty be punished? And that is why I'm afraid the Congress is going to brazen this out, especially the National Herald one. They know nothing is going to happen to them, and worse comes to worse, Rahul Gandhi will join the BJP. In any case, he's working for the BJP. The incontrovertible fact, Navika, is that in this country, you can fool all of the people all of the time. The Congress spokesperson's brief probably consists of a single line, which is that if on an off chance you can't commit a scam, at least defend the person who did. Coming to National Herald, Navika, just a minute. As I said, it is as open and shut as it gets. Here is the summary. In 2008, National Herald newspaper that was launched by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1938 accumulated a debt of 90 crores. Congress offered 90 crore interest-free loan to the Associated Journals Limited running National Herald. But the attempt to bring back the newspaper failed. Are you with me till now? In 2010, Young India Limited was set up, in which Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi held a majority share of 76%. Now remember, the Congress that had originally lent money to Associated Journals Limited now assigned the debt to Young India Limited, which meant that Associated Journals Limited had to pay back 90 crores to Young India Limited. But because since Associated Journals Limited was not in a position to repay the loan, the company transferred its shareholding to Gandhi-owned Young India Limited, correct, for which they received only rupees 50 lakhs. Associated Journals had a real estate properties worth 2,000 crores. I repeat, the Gandhis allegedly paid 50 lakhs to buy a property worth 2,000 crores. When Rahul was quizzed by the ED on this, he said he was too tired to answer the questions regarding this buyout. I wonder what Sonia Gandhi's excuse was. So this, in short, in 2 minutes, I suppose for the first time, I've explained to you why this scam is as open and shut as the Shiv Sena scam and the Bengal scam.
Can I please reply? Please give me the right to reply. It's a very important reply.
Okay.
Please, I just
all right, Tehseen Poonawala, yes.
I have a lot of respect for Dr. Ranganathan, but Dr. Ranganathan, you're wrong on two facts. Fact number one is the 90 crore loan was not given in 2008, it was given over a period of 10 years in small installments. That's point number one. But the more pertinent point, Dr. Ranganathan, since you're a man of science, data, and one who's well researched on Times Now Navika show, please read the first paragraph of the Young India objectives and the Associated Journal objectives. Associated Journals cannot transfer one property to Young India, and Young India cannot take any property from Associated Journals because Young India is a Section 25 not-for-profit company. They cannot even sell the assets because these are government properties on lease, and you cannot sell it.
Then how come the courts have not given you any relief in this matter?
Let me read a more important paragraph. A more important paragraph from 2015. After having considered the entire case in its proper perspective, this court finds no hesitation to put on record that the modus operandi adopted by the petitioners in taking control of AGL via special purpose vehicle Young Indians, particularly when the main persons in Congress, AGL and YI, were the the same evidence is a criminal intent, and the trial court had said,
Yes.
and please understand what the trial court had said, from the complaint and the evidence said so far, it appears that YI was in fact created as a sham or a cloak to convert public money to personal use for a special purpose vehicle for acquiring control of 2,000 crores worth of assets. The AJL and sits all the, and therefore the complainant has established a prima facie case against the accused under section 403, 406, 420, read with 120B of IPC, trial court and high court, not controverted by the high court.
You challenged even this in the Supreme Court and Tehseen Poonawala, you know where you stand. I'm not here. I'm not here to give a judgment on the cases. The proof is there. The courts have prima facie seen this case and the ED is now investigating it. The matter will have to be settled in court. We are not the judge, jury, and we are not giving our judgment here. The question is, all this song and dance ke hi mar gaye, ED ne maar diya, ED ne maar diya. Arey bhai, why can't you answer the questions that are being raised by the ED? And these questions will have to be proved in a court of law. So where is the fear, Mr. Ashutosh? Where is the fear? Do you think any of these cases will not be part of a court proceeding, and will the judgment not come from the court of law? Why is it being made an opposition versus government debate? Why is it not about corruption, investigation and the court trial and the judgment? You're on mute.
Navika, are you acting as an advocate?
I'm not on mute. You can hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm really surprised.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ashutosh ji.
Yeah. See, there are 3 points. First point is ED itself to be blamed for the questions raised against ED because the conviction rate of ED is 0.5%. So any investigating agency with a conviction rate of only 5%, 0.5%, there will be serious doubts about its efficiency. There is serious doubt about the way it is functioning and about its intent. The point number 2, I think sometimes we forget that how the 2G case was raised and became a national issue and the Raja has gone to the jail. But what happened afterward? Supreme Court has given a clean sheet. So at least I can understand the political parties and their spokesperson making an issue out of it. Let them make it. But about the independent analysts, they should be slightly conservative on this. And even the Supreme Court has also said in one of its judgments that there should not be any such agenda-driven debate kind of. So that's the point number 2, because till this day...
No, you're talking about agenda-driven debates. I want to ask you, Ashutosh.
Not about you.
You've been an editor and an anchor yourself. If this investigation was going on, would you not have debated it?
Navika,
because you're not agenda-driven.
No. The agenda-driven debate is said when the judgment is pronounced. When you already pronounce him or her guilty. I'm not talking about you. So I'm not talking about you. Please don't take it personally. I said the political analysts to appear on your shows, they should be quite conservative with facts and about their the speech, whatever they are saying. The political parties can do it. That's not an issue. So it's not that I have not done. I'm doing debate on this subject. But look at my debate and you'll find out how it has been done and in what fashion it has been. The point number 3, and again it's very important reason, that Rahul Gandhi, whether he goes to jail or not, totally is none of my concern. But the issue is why only BJP, only opposition leaders are being implicated. ED raids on them, and several things are leaked out to the press, and then a whole everything is created. There is a cabinet. There are serious question marks about that, and even today Indian Express has reported. Are we debating that? Are we pronouncing a judgment on that? No, we are not pronouncing judgment on that. Because let's wait for the investigation to complete and court to pass a judgment. But unfortunately, when we pronounce somebody as a guilty, then we are part of a conspiracy to discredit that person. And I blame myself also, because I had done those kind of debates in my shows also. Let's be slightly divided.
Navika, may I just come in on a very important point, because Ashutosh says this on all channels. First of all, Ashutosh, just to clarify to you, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that low conviction rate, especially in ED PMLA matters, is not a ground for doing away with the validity of the law or the action, because if that becomes a standard, in murder also there's very low conviction, in many civil cases also there's very low outcome of the cases. That doesn't mean we do away with the laws if we apply your standard. That is a bogus standard. Now please don't interrupt, Ashutosh. Be a good panelist, as you are a good debater and an anchor. Please be a good panelist. Secondly, let me tell you, sir, any of these matters that have gone to the court, have you got relief? We are saying forget the ED, forget Modi, forget Shehzad, forget everyone is bad. हम सब बुरे हैं जी. पर कोर्ट पे तो विश्वास है ना आपको? कोर्ट ने आपके सत्येंद्र जैन के बारे में क्या बोला है? He has criminal background. It has said we are taking cognizance. He is prima facie involved in money laundering. It has said that he was doing hawalabazi in 2019 Delhi High Court order. And what does your favorite friend Kejriwal say? Kattar ईमानदार है जी. On what basis has he challenged the court? Here you have an honorable member of parliament judging the wisdom of the court. You have Congress people coming out on the streets going against the order of the court. The court hasn't quashed the proceedings against them. And finally, forget everything else. Look what Ajit Pawar says about Sanjay Raut's case. Ajit Pawar says agencies have a right to probe. He said this. अब vendetta है तो अजीत पवार को convince करो भाई. हमारे साथ.
Can I? Navika, since he has taken my name, I have to respond.
Okay,
of course
okay, all right, Ashutosh. Go ahead.
Has court pronounced Satinder Jain guilty? Has he been convicted? Let me. Tajad, be polite.
Yes.
Do not interrupt because you insulted a man like Saugata Roy of his after.
I have not insulted anybody. Please, where have I insulted?
No. Now
did I insult anybody?
No.
He can pronounce judgment right now. I can't say on the basis of court findings.
Let's not derail this debate.
But who is he to pass judgment on me?
Ashutosh has the right to make his point.
Not pass judgment on me.
No. Nobody is passing judgment.
He said I insulted somebody. That's the worst claim excuse for not having answers.
1 minute, Ashutosh, go on.
The point I am trying to make is very, very simple. The Supreme Court has given certain judgment. That doesn't mean a Supreme Court judgment cannot be criticized. The Supreme Court has said the ED has a right to detain somebody without telling him the reason. How absurd it can be. I mean, you are detaining me, and you're not telling me on what ground you are detaining. How will I defend myself?
Well, as of now, will you train your guns at us because we are quoting a Supreme Court judgment? You know, Ashutosh, still still that judgment is contested, and till you go to a larger bench. Well, this is the judgment that stays. But let me get in Saugata. I'm coming to you, Anand Ranganathan. Saugata wanted to come in. Saugata wanted to come in. And since in my culture, I will not keep him waiting, because he's senior and he has a right to speak. Saugata, do you also believe that when mounds of cash of that kind are, discovered in a raid, media should still not talk about it because it will be tantamount to giving judgment? We should not still report the news. Because we are a news channel, we should not just talk about it. We should pretend it hasn't happened till the case is concluded. And in our country, average the cases, the Chara Ghotala took 30 years to be proved. So till such time, we should just keep quiet. Is that the point you are making, Saugata?
No, I am not making that point, Navika. You have a right to report news, but do not pass judgments all the time. You journalists have this habit of holding kangaroo courts and doing a media trial. I would request you to report on the news that mounds of cash has been discovered and not pass judgment on the same. Don't have a kangaroo court. Number one, I said on this channel just now that I am shocked by the amount of cash that has been discovered. I have never known of such a big mound of cash. Whoever is guilty for it, let the ED probe and prove it in court. I have no objection. But I say that ED is the hatchet organization of those in power, including Modi and Shah. It is being used, and that's why the director is given one after another extension. They are using the ED. See, now they are not using the CBI because CBI does not have power of attachment. They are using the ED to attach people's properties and to bring fear in the minds of the people. Sanjay Raut, Satinder Jain, and everybody else who has been touched have been touched by ED in the same way. They will not be able to convict anybody. They will just conduct raids, bother people, and ultimately they will not be able to prove anything because their conviction rate is 0.5%. And I am totally against the Supreme Court judgment on PMLA and ED. I think the PMLA was a bad law, and I am sure that after the judge who gave the judgment on ED retires, a fresh petition will be filed and this judgment will have to be modified.
It was a five-judge bench, and I don't know what you're trying to say, but it was a five-judge bench which said that. I want to get in.
But let me one factual point. Times of India and Economic Times both are worthy of the reputation they carry. Economic Times reports, and I quote, and I have the court order also. Prima facie sufficient evidence against Satyendra Jain. Court accepts ED's charge sheet. Point number one. Times of India. Ignore health report from LNJP on Satyendra Jain for now. You broke the story today in the morning, in fact. And also, they defended Nawab Malik also. Evidence suggests Nawab Malik conspired with D Company, special PMLA court. If I am lying, I will leave this debate. These are court findings. These are not observations. So, these people held Rafale ka chori hua based on their figment of imagination. Your court findings are there. Prima facie, reported by Times Now, Times of India, Economic Times, Indian Express, and all of the worthy publications. And here they have the gall to say, "Hum nahi mante."
Well, I want to ask Mr. Vijay Krishna. My question here, Mr. Vijay Krishna, is 672.
My last point, Navika,
Yes, Dada.
Navika, I have a last point. You've been very patient, very polite with me, which I appreciate. I am saying that where was the ED when Vijay Mallya decamped, when Mehul Choksi decamped?
Fair question.
I'll answer that.
Nirav Modi took photographs.
Fair question.
Navika, I'll answer that.
Navika, I'll come to you.
How many percent of
Shehzad Poonawala, I'll come to you.
Let me respond.
No, Vijay Krishna hasn't spoken on the debate, and I want to ask a question about 672 people who were promised houses 14 years ago. 14 years ago, and then they
He wants an answer desperately from me. Kar dene do answer, bhai.
Shehzad, it's very difficult to hold a debate and get answers for what people want answers for if only political point scoring is going to be the agenda.
No, he's senior. I'm responding to his answer question.
I will come to you. I will give you time, and all in good time. You've spoken, 25, rather 40% of the debate time. But Vijay Krishna, I want to ask you, 672 people have not got their flats.
Could you please
are we worried about the fact that what answer and what rights are we giving to these people for 14 years who have been waiting for their flats or for rental of those flats that was promised to them? And even in Bengal, are we even answering the questions to those whose names were removed from the merit list? No, we are only worried about why the ED is doing what it is and why attachment of properties is happening, why Modi is going against us, and we are only worried about how the judgment of the Supreme Court is flawed in courts and how the PMLA Act is so bad. I want to ask you, Vijay Krishna, what about the people?
First of all, I thank you for having me in this debate, Navika ji, and my request is to give me an opportunity of sufficient time. Now I could see how Shehzad Poonawala is trying to heckle me and not giving me an opportunity. Please give equal amount of time. This is what I call discrimination. When BJP spokespersons, BJP supporters get lot of time. As a Shiv Sainik, as a post-Shiv supporting my party, today 5 panels are there. I've waited patiently for 30 minutes. This is what's been happening with regard to ED. And I don't agree to Shehzad. Tehseen Poonawala calling enforcement director as laundry. No, we have great respect for our constitutional institutions. The only problem is that ED should treat all the cases with equal interest. In the month of August, the Supreme Court reprimanded ED for its inordinate delay of not taking the cases to their logical conclusion. As a responsible media, being the fourth pillar of democracy, Navika ji, you have every right to question about the plight of that 672 poor people who haven't got the flats. But does BJP have the same political morality to question Shiv Sena on the issues of Hindutva ideology and also about fighting the corruption? And here comes the scientist Anand Ranganathan with every day with patents and forgets the names of Sujana Chowdhury, Ramesh and all other DMK MPs who are facing ED charges, Ballari brothers and Yediyurappa ji, Suvendu Adhikari ji,
Mr. Vijay Krishna, is this a debate on Hindutva or on corruption and ED? Well, Anand Ranganathan, your name has been taken. Respond, and I'm putting all the faders down as I'm running out of time. Anand Ranganathan.
Yes, as far as Mr. Vijay Krishna is concerned, if his house is burgled, they won't find anything because he's wearing all the jewelry. And one must investigate, maybe ED must investigate where he got all that money from. But can I please come to the specifics here? I wanted to make a very serious point. And I wanted to rebut my good friend Shehzad on something because criticism should be valued in this country. Navika, Shehzad was very rightly pointed out the Supreme Court judgment on PMLA and the ED. But the fact of the matter is that in any civilized country, ED or any fraud investigative agency would cease to exist if out of every 200 cases that it investigates, there is only one conviction. The murder rate, the murder conviction is 46% in India. 50,000 murders happen every year. Around 22,000 murderers are convicted. So you cannot compare ED conviction rate to the murder conviction rate. Somebody has to explain, and I hope my good friend Shehzad explains. Why on earth are we continuing with an ED agency that investigates 200 cases and there is only one conviction? It is beyond appalling. It is unacceptable.
I'm running out of time. 30 seconds.
First of all, Anand is absolutely right. There were in fact 0 convictions between 2004 to 14 and the remaining 24 convictions have taken place post 2014. This shows that the ED's performance is improving when it is given a free hand and not treated like a cage parrot. Point number 1. Point number 2. Anand, your argument is extremely specious. Your argument is specious because if we start seeing the conviction depends not just on the agency, it depends even on the court. The courts may, for some reason, feel that a particular matter, despite the best efforts of the agency, is not worthy of conviction. So now, should we do away with the courts because they're not convicting enough? And there should be a conviction standard that will lead to.
That's another debate. The judicial process, the investigation process. Well, for 8 years, Shehzad Poonawala, the 2G scam is still in courts. After it's been appealed for. Well, Robert Vadra's cases are still waiting for any headway to be. No, the question is, when will we have fast-track investigations? And
it will be as per law and as per the constitution. We don't believe in.
Well, then increase the number of courts and increase the number of judges. That in itself is something that the government should be well aware of and well seized of and should work on, because frankly, investigation agencies, while they're important to find out and nail the corrupt, the question is, can the judgment hang in balance forever for political brownie points? It's also a question that needs to be answered. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1.